Why I stopped trusting focus on the family. Hi, friends. I want to share something that's really hard for me to say. For more than 30 years, I was a huge supporter of Focus on the Family. I listened to their broadcasts faithfully. I visited their headquarters in Colorado Springs. My teens went on their international Brio missions trips. I subscribed to their magazines, bought and recommended their books, and gave thousands of dollars. Focus felt like home. I truly believed they stood for what was right: strong families, biblical values, and basic Christian morality. But a few years ago, something happened that changed all that. In 2017, I went to a conference and I heard Jim Daly, the president of Focus on the Family, speak. He was talking about challenges in marriages today that Focus was uniquely positioned to address. And yet, the only problem he mentioned was divorce. I had been a Christian divorce recovery leader in a conservative church for nearly 20 years. I've seen hundreds of families up close. Most divorces weren't frivolous. They were women and some men escaping spouses with a pattern of violence, psychological torment, addiction, betrayal, deceit, abuse of children and pets, sometimes even pedophilia. Afterwards, I went up to Jim Daly in the lobby and politely asked, "What about abuse? Don't you believe that some marriages are so abusive, divorce is the best answer?" And he turned on his heel and strode off, looking over his shoulder, saying, "I believe what the Bible says." And he stomped away. That moment, something broke in me because the Bible does talk about protecting the vulnerable. It says to run from evildoers, not to associate with them, not even to eat with them. And historically, Christian tradition has agreed. For centuries, respected theologians and early church fathers and the reformers taught that abuse and infidelity breaks the marriage covenant. Exodus 21 says that a wife should be set free if her husband withholds food, clothing, or affection. Paul allowed believers to divorce for abandonment. Churches have recognized that persistent abuse is a sin. It must be brought before the church, and the church may remove the person if they continue in their marriage-destroying sin. Physical and verbal abuse violates God's design for marriage. God never asked us to remain in marriages filled with cruelty, infidelity, severe neglect, and corruption. I started digging deeper into Focus on the Family's articles about divorce and children, and what I found was devastating. They misquote researchers, they twist data, they leave out key facts to make it sound like divorce is worse for children than living with addiction, violence, or abuse. They even published advice saying spouses should try to reconcile with pedophiles. That's not pro-family. That's reckless and evil. I checked every reference in several of their most popular articles. I bought the books they referenced, emailed the researchers, and discovered that nearly every claim they made was false or distorted where it came to children and divorce. That's when I realized Focus isn't telling the truth. They've made divorce into a culture war issue, not a moral one. They're not being wise. Here's what I want you to know. Leaving a destructive marriage isn't sin, it is survival. Divorce is commanded 3 times in the Bible, not just condoned, actually commanded. Divorce can save lives. Of course, there are frivolous divorces. But you and I have heard of marriages that are so toxic. The divorce has to be God's gracious rescue plan. If that describes you, God will still love you and use you to promote the kingdom if you choose to divorce and leave that toxic environment to protect yourself and your children. Jesus healed on the Sabbath. He set people free from bondage. even over the objection of the religious leaders. He didn't tell the oppressed to try harder or stay for the kids. He rescued them. I still feel sadness about Focus on the Family. I wanted them to be a safe, truthful guide for Christians. But when a ministry repeatedly distorts facts and protects abusers instead of victims, it's time to step back and ask hard questions. If you once trusted Focus, as I did, maybe it's time to start doubting them. Not because you've lost your faith, but because your faith has grown. Truth and character matter. Truth can stand up to scrutiny. And love never asks us to stay in harm's way. As Jesus said, that's tempting the Lord your God. For more truth about what the Bible really says about abuse and divorce, visit lifesavingdivorce.com/abuse-in-Bible.